Hey guys, what's going on? Steven back again, and it's time for another video from the Templin Institute. On today's episode, we will be taking a look at some Craftworld Eldar. Sorry it's so dark in here, we got some thunderstorms coming in, so hopefully I can get this video done before the thunder starts. I don't have any fancy lights, so that's also why it's so dark. So anyways, let's take a look at some Craftworld Eldar. Here we go.
The Eye of Terror is a realm of madness and despair. A massive warp storm where the boundaries between the immaterium and real space are at their weakest. The skies within weep blood, ancient stars burn in multicolored flares, and everywhere the whims of the dark gods of chaos hold sway. For 10,000 years, it has casted shadow across the galaxy. The Eye of Terror is not a natural phenomenon. Before it burst into reality, the area of space in which it now burns was the heart of the ancient Eldari Empire. Their domain spanned across the galaxy, of which they were the unchallenged masters. Millennia of technological progress had freed the Eldari race from concerns of age, senility, disease, or even the monotony of labor. They instead dedicated their lives to pursuits of poetry, music, and artwork. But their lives were long, and the Eldari grew bored with such callings. Cults of excess formed across their worlds, secret groups dedicated to experiencing every sensation, whether pleasurable or painful. Bored with the mundane, the actions of the cults grew more hedonistic and depraved. Torture and murder replaced art and literature. The Eldari fell into a twisted ritual of self-destruction, with such acts no longer limited to hidden cabals, but rampant across their cities. Too late, the Eldari realized that their actions had rippled across the immaterium, and given birth to a terrible new entity, the psychic embodiment of the corruption that now threatened to overwhelm their race. When the Chaos god Slaanesh finally attained full sentience, the Eldari were ripped apart. Trillions of souls were inhaled by the god of pleasure's first breath, and the warp energy of the immaterium spilled over into the physical realm. The Eldari Empire was gone, and the Eye of Terror all that
just
remained.
Like that.
Yet the death of the Eldari had been foreseen by a scattered few amongst their race. As their worlds grew more twisted and extreme, some scattered themselves across the wild fringes of the Empire, foregoing any luxury in favor of an ascetic way of life. Others found a refuge in the labyrinthine network known as the Webway, and fully embraced the corruption that had befallen their race, feeding off the suffering of others to stave off the corruption of their own souls. Desperate to remain one step ahead of Slaanesh, who would never rest until she had consumed every Eldari soul, each fragment of their race had been forced to make a choice, to decide how they would survive in a new galaxy, without the might and wisdom of the Eldari Empire to guide them. But there were a few who refused to give in to both the despair and corruption that had gripped their fallen race. As their empire fell into depravity, they took to the stars in continent-sized craft worlds. For millennia, these Craftworld Eldari have struck back against the forces of chaos and the primitive Xenos usurpers who have defiled the ruins of their empire, in a vain or desperate attempt to bring about the return of their golden era. They have named themselves the Children of the Phoenix King, the Asuryani. In the 42nd millennium, the Asuryani are nearly an entirely voidborn race. Many craft worlds drift across the stars, but they are fragments of a once greater whole, broken and scattered across the galaxy. In geography, culture, and technology, their disparate elements vary wildly, and even within a single craft world, there can be a great diversity of tradition and attitude. This is due in part to the nature of the craft worlds themselves. During the time of the Eldari Empire, these gigantic spacecraft habitats were self-sufficient, independent realms. They were deployed on great trading missions that might separate them from their kin for centuries, hundreds of thousands of light years beyond the frontiers of the Empire. This life attracted those with a strong sense of independence and self-reliance, a mindset that likely saved them during the fall of the Eldari and preserved them ever since. This same mindset, however, has further complicated any grand reunification. Each craftworld instead pursues its own agenda, which to foreign observers might seem completely random. Whatever purpose guides their actions might have them come to the aid of beleaguered Imperial defenders one day, only to slaughter without mercy the next.
Really?
Through their near mastery of the webway, a hyperdimensional construct of glowing tunnels across space, craftworlds can appear without warning across the galaxy, only to disappear and re-emerge somewhere else.
Is my friend type
For
of thing,
10,000 years, the webway has allowed them to remain hidden and scattered, beyond the reach of those who would destroy them. The craftworlds have expanded greatly beyond their original purpose, becoming sanctuary worlds for the Eldari race, and growing hundreds of times larger to accommodate this new role. As the craftworlds have grown, so too have the divisions between them. Each now possess their own history, traditions, and goals. There is no singular leader amongst the Asuryani, no central government. Each craftworld may instead possess different forms of leadership, from Seer councils made up of powerful psykers, to intricate alliances between rival Asuryani clans. The only constant across the craftworlds is their dedication to the Asuryani path. Every soul aboard a craftworld is expected to dedicate itself to a specific discipline, and focus the entirety of their efforts upon its study, practice, and eventual mastery. Then, the Asuryani will choose a different path, and the process will begin anew. There are many paths, each with their own rewards and risks. Some are very clearly defined, with strict traditions and expected behaviors intended to build discipline and obedience. Others offer less guidance, but extended greater freedom, encouraging self-reliance and inner strength. Regardless of what path they embrace, these codes of behavior all have within them the same goal. They act as a form of physical and psychic protection against the emotional volatility of the Eldari race, allowing them to experience intense sensations without repeating the terrible excesses that led to the fall. In this way, the Asuryani have found a way to avoid temptation and tame their excessively turbulent natures. The Path of the Seer, also known as the Path of the Witch, is the longest, most complex, most treacherous, and rarest followed path. Its few members become Seers, powerful psykers who have mastered their abilities and might command powerful forces without fear of attracting demons or creating rifts in the warp. Every Seer explores their psychic potential in their own way, but the range of abilities open to them is vast. Some are able to use their powers to assist their brethren in battle, while others can look into the future and attempt to discern the best course of action for their craftworld to take. For this reason, Spirit Seers, Warlocks, and Farseers are most often found in powerful councils who might govern an entire craftworld.
Yep, that's why I had a Seer Council.
While few among their race will ever undertake the path of the Seer, the path of the Warrior is a calling that nearly all among their number will feel at least some point in their long lives. Young Asuryani in particular are drawn to this focus, with the fierce, perhaps naive belief that through conflict and bloodshed, the Eldari Empire might be reborn. Most often, however, when the Asuryani go to war, it is not to reclaim ancient glories, but merely to survive the many terrors that afflict the galaxy. But with centuries to hone their bodies and minds to a martial craft, the armies of the Asuryani can accomplish extraordinary triumphs of the battlefield. Every warrior is a specialist in their own right, and each unit of such masters works in perfect concert with each other to produce a true symphony of destruction and careful grace that is distinctly Eldari. Within the path of the warrior, are a number of aspect shrines, said to embody some form of Cain, the Eldari god of war from myth and legend. Asuryani who train within these shrines will become dedicated to a particular role on the battlefield at the expense of all others.
Was it Fire Warriors?
The most common aspect is that of the Dire Avengers, and such warriors are first amongst their brethren. They are the least specialized and most flexible of all the aspects, and it is for this reason that they make up the basic infantry of most Asuryani war hosts. The aspect shrine of the Howling Banshees is a notable exception in the otherwise genderless meritocracy of Asuryani. They are the embodiment of the Banshees of Eldari legend, daughters of the crone goddess Morai Heg, whose modern incarnation unleash a whirlwind of devastation through inhuman precision and efficiency within close quarters combat.
I kind of like them over striking
Dark
scorpions.
Reapers, by contrast, can be found on the periphery of any battlefield, providing long-ranged fire support. They are widely seen as the most menacing of the warrior aspects, delivering unrelenting destruction behind their grim, skull-masked helms.
They had some really long-range weapons.
Fire dragons revel in destruction like no other aspect shrine. They have chosen mastery over the highly dangerous and often unpredictable fusion weaponry of the Asuryani. While neither swift nor long-ranged, they can reduce even the mightiest war machines or powered armor to burning slag.
The one in the back there with the longer weapon, I think it was like
Swooping hawks are among the most mobile of the aspect warriors, soaring over the battlefield on angelic wings. They are the eyes and ears of their brethren, scouting for the main force before falling from the skies like noble birds of prey within the midst of their enemies. Many other aspect shrines exist, but each Craftworld will typically maintain the presence of only a small number of shrines. Exceptions to this rule exist, with some harboring many and others dedicating themselves to but a single warrior aspect. Regardless, in battle each shrine will be led by an exarch, warriors who have lost themselves upon that path and are unable to ever leave it again. They are awed for their complete dedication, but reviled for their lives of never-ending violence.
I can't leave.
But even the exarchs pale in comparison to the Phoenix Lords, the greatest warriors of the Asuryani, who bear allegiance to no individual craftworlds, but instead the entire warrior aspect. These beings achieve a kind of immortality, with the spirits of fallen Phoenix Lords incorporated into their armor, so their successor might make use of their knowledge and abilities. Regardless of which aspect warriors they bring to battle, the Craftworlds are fully aware of the dwindling numbers of their race. Asuryani doctrine is therefore preeminently focused on inflicting as much damage on the enemy without suffering any losses of their own.
Well, I think
hit-and-run attacks are most favored, devastating their opponents before they are able to muster an effective counterattack. How precisely this is achieved varies from Craftworld to Craftworld. The hyper-militant Craftworld Biel-Tan, for instance, gathers a myriad of disparate aspect warriors together, utilizing seemingly discordant elements in the ultimate expression of combined arms. Craftworld Saim-Han embraces maneuver, and their wild hosts are composed almost entirely of nimble jetbikes, swooping hawks, and other exotic war machines that unleash death at breakneck speeds.
They were very difficult to play against.
Craftworld Lianden, blighted by disaster, is a shadow of its former glory, and reliant not only on the aspect warriors for its continued survival, but wraithbone constructs. What might be mistaken for crude robots by the primitive species of the galaxy are instead masterful crafted works of art, and powered by the souls of fallen Asuryani warriors. This process is abhorrent to their race, but Lianden's only remaining option. Craftworld Alitok likewise makes use of forces from outside the path of the warrior, preferring instead the deadly ranges of the path of the outsider. They prize misdirection and stealth above all else. Craftworld Ulthwé is perhaps the most farsighted of the Asuryani, blessed or perhaps cursed with many of the most powerful psykers in the galaxy. Here, the path of the Seer is equally devoted to the art of war as the path of the warrior, and the Asuryani from both are more often seen working together on the battlefield.
Seers?
The doctrine, aspect shrines, and the paths favored by Asuryani varies from Craftworld to Craftworld, but in the heart of each sits an avatar.
Yes.
It is an incarnation of the bloody-handed god of war, Cain.
Hell
When
yeah.
roused from its throne of smoldering
that
iron,
model.
this avatar of Cain is the deadliest weapon the
Hand out like
Eldari
this and a
still
sword up
possess,
like this.
an utterly terrible presence on the battlefield. To rouse such a being to action
Yeah.
requires a terrible sacrifice and takes an abhorrent toll.
So cool.
It is only done in the most
always
dire
use
of
that
circumstances. The avatar of Cain is in many ways one of the last surviving fragments of the ancient Eldari religion.
Really?
The god of war fought a titanic battle against Slaanesh within the warp, but glutted with stolen power, she who thirsts proved the stronger. Cain was not consumed, however, but split into fragments, the
Oh, wow.
avatars. The Asuryani cling tenaciously to their folklore and tradition,
So what
but
happened to all
unlike
the
Cain,
other fragments?
the gods and goddesses of those tales have long since been devoured by Slaanesh. Val, god of smiths and craftsmen, Lilith, mistress of dreams and fortune, and many others, are still worshipped and remembered across the Craftworlds. But the era in which they could bestow their blessings and wisdom is long over. Some, however, fear that Isha, goddess of the harvest, still lives, trapped within the realm of another ruinous power of chaos, a fate far worse than death.
Yeah, I bet.
Even Asuran, the ruler and most powerful amongst the Eldari pantheon, from which the Asuryani now takes its name, is said to have been amongst the last consumed. In a final act, he bound his psychic might to the whole Eldari race, preventing Slaanesh from absorbing all of its power. This sacrifice
Smart.
likely saved the Eldari from complete extinction, and the act is remembered still.
That was
Only
pretty
one
smart.
other god from the fallen pantheon is said to have survived the birth of Slaanesh, Kagarak, the laughing god, the great fool,
That is
deity
really cool.
of tricksters
I don't
and
know
artists.
anything really about them.
According
I
to
think they
legend,
came after
his
me,
mocking
but
nature distanced him from the collective psychic corruption
They
that
look really
ensnared
cool.
the Eldari race.
And I mean,
And while Cain fought with
that looks
Slaanesh,
awesome.
Kagarak hid within the webway. He remains there still, if his followers can be believed, laughing at the Chaos gods and harboring plans for revenge. While some across the Eldari have chosen to embrace the enigmatic
I
laughing
don't know
god,
what kind of challenge
to
you
do
would put
so
against Chaos
requires they
gods.
leave the Craftworld and are no longer considered a member of the
I don't know
Asuryani.
too much about their god,
But it may not be the machinations of
know
Kagarak
against
or
the
the
Chaos
avatars
God.
of Cain that represent the last hope of the
What type of
Asuryani.
challenge
In the days since the fall,
you put against
each
them?
surviving fragment
Obviously
of
not
the
all
Eldari
four,
has made
but-
use of spirit stones, shining gems worn by every member of their race. These psychoreceptive crystals become attuned solely to the mind of its owner, and upon death, prevents their essence, or perhaps soul, from entering the warp and being consumed by Slaanesh. Instead, the spirit stones of fallen Asuryani are placed within an infinity circuit, a matrix of countless such stones contained at the core of every Craftworld. It is the closest thing the Asuryani have to an afterlife, and the infinity circuits are prized above all else. For a time, spirit stones were left in peace, only removed to power wraithbone constructs. Yet, there is a growing belief
What's
that the
that
spirit
axe weapon?
stones within the infinity circuit might have an even greater purpose.
I don't remember an axe.
Ynid, the Eldari god of the dead, is rumored to be growing within the collective infinity circuits of every Craftworld and within the
Ooh.
warp itself. If the souls
What
of
was
all
that? That was
Eldari,
actually
not
really
just the
cool.
Asuryani, but those of their twisted cousins the Drukari and the Harlequins of Kagarak, if all can be united, then Ynid might awaken.
So that was what the god
If
or
this can
goddess
be
of death.
achieved, then the god of the dead can succeed where all others have failed, destroying Slaanesh and freeing the Eldari from its thirst. All attempts to awaken Ynid have thus far
So the
failed,
Eldar have like a whole
but
bunch
through
of
the
gods,
actions of
kinda similar
Eldrad
to
Uthran,
Chaos, it seems.
High Farseer of Craftworld Ulthwé, it has perhaps begun to stir. A new prophet, Yvraine, daughter of Shades, is said to be the champion of Ynid, and she has begun to unify the Eldari in a way not seen since before their fall. Few across the galaxy would welcome the return of a reborn Eldari empire. But even the Inquisitors of the Imperium who have dedicated their lives to the pursuit of the Eldari recognize that their dying race has achieved an understanding of the great enemy far beyond the clumsy studies conducted by mankind. Perhaps it is through the Asuryani alone that a true victory might be achieved. The answer to such questions undoubtedly lies within a secret craftworld
So is there some
whose
sort of,
existence is kept
I don't wanna say
hidden
peace, but
even
like,
from the majority of their own
what's the word?
race.
Not like truce, but
It
like
is known
an
to only a
understanding with the
few,
Imperium and
and
Eldar?
fewer still have been allowed to enter. But within lies a vast store of knowledge, home to all the secrets of the universe, and perhaps Kagarak's ultimate jest.
The Templin Institute investigates the nation's...
Okay, so there we go. There is the Craftworld Eldar. Very interesting. I did not know really about all those other gods. I mean, I knew, obviously, the avatar of Cain. I've been recently learning about the, what's his name? The Harlequins one. Kagaroth? I've been learning about that one a little bit from some previous videos and stuff. I didn't know about the, what is it, the god or goddess of death? That's pretty interesting. So it kind of seems like, you know, Eldar have like a whole bunch of gods kind of similar to Chaos. So that is, yeah, that's kind of interesting. And of course, learning about all the different craft worlds and stuff like that. You know, I did have like a small army, not too big, maybe about, I don't know, a thousand points or so. You know, I did have the avatar of Cain model because, you know, that was really cool to use. I played BL10, you know, I did like the Wraith Lords, the Wraith Guards, those were really cool. Had some Howling Banshees, obviously some Warriors. I did have a Farseer at least. I think I still got some of the models still somewhere. Some of them are still even in the packages. What else did I have? Howling Banshees. What was it? The Fire Dragons? Yeah, I had some of those. Those were good. I didn't have any Warp Spiders. I didn't really have Striking Scorpions. I don't know. I just kind of wasn't a fan of them. You know, if I wanted close combat, you know, the Howling Banshees kind of, you know, kind of took care of everything. What else? I can't remember what else I had. I know I had one of their ships. It wasn't a Fire Prism. It was one of their other ones. I don't remember what they were called. Falcon, I think. I think I had one of those. But yeah, I mean, that was really my army. You know, I just kind of like starting little armies here and there and stuff like that, you know. Nothing really too big. I mean, nobody really played, you know, huge games. You know, like biggest was like 2,000 points. 2,500 occasionally. But yeah, that was about it. So I mean, wasn't really any point of getting, you know, huge armies unless there was like some big event, you know, at the store or something like that. Then, you know, like 3,000 points is what you'd, you know, need for their, you know, scenarios and games and stuff like that. Because every day at the store they'd have different different events. Sometimes they'd be running campaigns. You know, I remember they did one with Warhammer. They built this huge giant map and basically became total war Warhammer, basically. You know, all the regulars and stuff like that got to, you know, pick their starting locations on the board and stuff like that. And of course there was terrain and, you know, a forest area here, a lake here, mountains, all this other stuff. And, you know, you'd build up armies and, you know, split them out. Like, all right, I got like 1,000 point army. they're going to go this way to try and take this little fortress. My main army is going to go over here to attack, someone else. So they always did things like that. So, and of course they did stuff, like that for 40k as well. So yeah. So there we go. There is the Craftworld Eldar. Very cool. Lots of stuff, actually a whole bunch of stuff I didn't even really know. So it was pretty cool. Harlequins seem really cool though. Those models look really nice. They seem like a really cool army, I guess, because I guess they're not really like a full army. I guess they don't have many models, but they're still really cool. Unfortunately, they came after my time, so I didn't really get to see them, which was kind of a pain, because it would have been cool to, to see them. But anyways, there we go. There is Craftworld Eldar from the Templin Institute. I think I got one more video from the Templin Institute left to do, unless they upload another one, which of course is the Imperial Guard. So yeah, unless they come out with something else, that's the last one I got until they do come out with another video. So hopefully I can do the Imperial Guard one next week, and that will take care of the Templin Institute, until they come out with another video. And then I can move on to something else. You guys have been saying, what is it, text-to-speech Emperor? You've been asking for that for quite a while, so I think that will probably be like the next thing I move into after this, because I did Bricky's videos, I did Hell's Reach, I've done all the other videos, Astartes, and everything like that. So I think text-to-speech will be after I finish Templin Institute. So anyways, hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you did, hit that thumbs up button. That'd be awesome. Remember, feel free to subscribe to my channel. Follow me on social media. Links are in the description box below. And other than that, just stick around. More videos are on the way, and I'll see you guys next time.